recording. Then go to Facebook. I'm on Facebook. And share on a page. Share on TR International. Next. Preparing streaming preview. Oh, use stream key. I have no idea what it is.
So maybe it's Friday evening after all.
We are live. I can see we are live on Facebook. What a great achievement for today. So hi, everybody. Welcome to this Facebook Live. We are from Tiara International. We are a women's leadership development company. And I'm saying hooray, because we are on Facebook. And so the procedure had changed, but we still, sometimes we arrive at places in surprising ways. So thank you all for being here. We are having this cross-Atlantic conversation with Beth. Hi, Beth. You are calling in from Chicago, and on this side of the Atlantic we have Andrea.
Yes. Hi.
There, and myself, Franciska. And we are all, we all are part of the global leadership team of Tiara. And we have taken up this, this habit, and I think we're doing pretty consistent, of coming together every week on Friday at this time to have a part of a conversation that we feel inspired to have. We talk a lot. We were on fire even before we came to this Facebook Live. We decided to change the topic because it was too much politics. But here we are, because, and these are not prepared apart from thinking about the topic. And we just like to explore a theme, explore what leadership is about. And we very much understand from our own experience that leadership is an ongoing thing. And so even though we teach and we help people develop in their leadership, we are continuously developing in our leadership ourselves and understanding better and better who we are being. So let me get to the topic that Beth, you came with a topic today. What does it look like when we give up being right? That came from you, and where did that come from? Can you enlighten us a little bit? What was the inspiration for this topic?
Well, I'd like to say that it wasn't impacted by politics, but clearly you can't have a breath in the United States right now that isn't somehow being impacted by politics. But the concept about people being right at all costs is one that really, it just spoke to me this week in terms of people being right over relationships. You know, even as simple things here in the States, especially in our state, in Illinois, where Chicago is, there's a law that's been passed that pedestrians can just walk across the street as long as there's a crosswalk, and that cars have to stop. So if you're going 30 miles or 20 kilometers or 40 kilometers or 50 miles an hour, you just have to stop, because of course you would try to stop. You wouldn't want to hit anybody, but if you're not expecting people to just not look and step into the crosswalk, that's a dangerous thing. And this morning I was driving my husband to work and to school, and somebody walked out and didn't even look, just expected me to stop. And I happened to be paying attention, thank goodness, so I did. So they were lucky, I was lucky. And my husband says, what is it about people? Like, they just assumed you're gonna stop. And I said, well, there's a lot of people out there that wanna be right. And my joke is, do you wanna be right or do you wanna be dead? Because you could have been wrong and I could have hit you. I mean, like, by mistake, not on purpose. But
Yeah.
when we default to that feeling of, well, I'm right, that it just, we lose perspective on everything else, even our lives in
Mm.
some situations. So that's kind of what really crystallized it for me this morning, was like, oh my gosh, people are so committed to being right, they're willing to risk their life, you
Yes.
know, by crossing the street for it.
Yeah.
But how about you guys? What do you hear or see? Or I know you're giggling along with the goofy example, but
Yes.
I love it that you said, do you want to be right or do you want to be dead? I have a variation of that. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And more often than ever, more often than not, I get the answer, I want to have both. And I say, you cannot have it both, so you have to choose. And I think, like, how can you even doubt to to choose being right above being happy? But we are definitely onto something, because I think it's a good inquiry to look inside of ourselves. When would I rather be dead or rather be right than happy? Huh? So I haven't gotten to that answer yet, because we just, as you said, Franciska, we are making that up, so we never know what this conversation brings us. But I find there's a really interesting train of thought.
Yeah.
Where is it that I would rather go and walk on the across the street than look around me, because someone might just be driving too fast. No.
Yeah, and I'm happy that I can even add a third perspective to that, because I realize that I often ask myself, do I want to be right or do I want to make progress? So do I want to hold on to a position, or do I want to remember where I want to go and maybe there's another way? And this is one of my favorite interventions when I work with clients, like if someone is too sticking to a certain truth, at some point in time, I can ask, like, hey, what is it that you really want and why? And do you want to hold on to your perspective? You're seeing it right, you're being right, or is it something else that you really want? And that can be progress, it can be being happy, it can be different things indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it, Franciska, how you point to the given that what are you holding on to? So when I ask myself the question, what have I held on to for a long time? It really gets me something. And what I was holding on to for a long time, actually since even a couple of weeks ago, was that I cannot lash back. So I took a thing here to remind me. I did not allow myself to lash out or to lash back. So people could hit me all the time. They could hit me, they could hurt me. I would refuse to draw a boundary and to just do that. I have it, by the way, because a mosquito was traveling around me all the time. So I thought, okay, you can go outside or I'm going to hit you. But it took me a long time to discover what it cost me. This refusal to give that up, to hold on, it is self-righteousness. I don't want to be a person who hurts with my wound. I have to take care of my own woundedness, and I will not hurt another people coming from my woundedness. And it has cost me a lot. And I'm very happy that I demystified that piece, and that actually now I allow myself to do that. If someone is hurting me, whether they want to or not, to just have them back off and put my boundary, because it hurts me for the single reason.
yeah, there's a lot of ways in the last week. This conversation probably has been swirling in my head, different examples of things. And I find this either or. Do you want to be right or do you want happiness? Do you want to be right or do you want to maintain the relationship? And I think for me, this maintaining the relationship, I know it's not just our country. I know the world is rather polarized right now, but the US is, in the throes of it, given our election that's emerging. And it's easy to be in a conversation, even with people that you love and you're close to, where you have very polarizing views. And that can be scary. It's like, first there's dismay. Oh my God, they think differently than me, but one of the things I've started to do is if I'm asked for an opinion, I will share it. And I will also make sure it's my opinion. Like, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. This is why I'm thinking what I'm thinking. I'm not coming at it anymore like, this is the truth. This is how it is, which I have been known to do in, over the course of my lifetime. But I'm grateful for what's occurring now, because it's giving me opportunity to practice backing off, not from my truth, how I see it, but giving the other person space to have their truth. So in doing that, I'm trying to find a way. I'm not a fan of the phrase, well, we just have to agree to disagree. That, I don't love that phrase. But there's a way to actually hold both truths as possibility that I'm looking for. I don't want to just let it fall off the table as, well, let's move on because we're going to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And there's something inside of that, and maybe we can switch gears a little bit. There's cost and rewards. And I think that, Andrea, what you were bringing up, I think that's something that I've been recognizing over the last, month or so, is that there's cost to me, there's cost to the relationship, there's cost to the other person, there's cost to all of our community, me being a certain way. And then what are the rewards? What am I getting by hanging on to that? What do I gain by releasing it? And that's, that kind of takes a little bit of a higher evolution, I think, not that I'm saying I have a high evolution. I'm just saying it's a higher evolution of thought to be like, oh yeah, like I'm not just reacting on a primal sense here. I'm actually pausing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you're referring to higher evolution. I mean, we're all evolving all the time.
Or devolving.
Or devolving. Yeah, indeed. You want to be right on this.
You only devolve when you don't agree with me.
I'm now holding both possibilities as possibly true, indeed, yes. But I do realize that it depends on how much and what is at stake for me. If I really can reach that ground of peace and openness, like, okay, yes, I can hold space for this end and I can hold space for the other end as well. And I feel when I have what it looks like for me when I give up on being right, it can look very different ways. I can do it in a very happy, open, provoking, challenging way, being playful, like, okay, you can look at this in different ways. Or I can, it looks like for me, I can be very neutral and I will become like a harmonizer and talk about the progress. Do you want to make progress or do you want to be right? That kind of thing. Or I can go really underground and hold my speech, but inside be like very alive and cooking, because some very deep truth is touched that I really don't want to let go of. My deepest vision, what is possible for the world and for people, that is just not negotiable. Or, yeah.
Yeah. You're pointing to something that I always call, it's your personal vision of the world. And if that vision is executed, we have your own version of paradise on earth. And that might look differently for people, but it is a good practice. Like, how would your paradise look like? How would my paradise look like? Which would be then the good stuff of the vision. But then you can see, for instance, a vision where we have growth and development, and where we overcome obstacles, might kind of collide a bit with someone who knows about the harmony of all things and the perfection of everything going together. And in the real heaven, there probably are not colliding. But when you are in a meeting, and the person who is about growth and the one who is about harmony, then can really get into a fight with each other, because sometimes you have to let go of a little bit of harmony to grow, and sometimes you need also harmony to take a breath. You cannot grow all the time. And
Yeah.
I love this level of conversations when it happens, and it happens. It's possible, and they are just so lovely, and it brings us all to this higher ground where both possibilities are then emerging into a new road, a new possibility that no one has thought of in an expansive way. And I love that. That's really I am in my element when I am in that kind of conversations. Unfortunately, I can facilitate them, because then I can gear them towards that piece. It's a little harder when I am part of a conversation.
When you're immersed in it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think in listening here, there's a couple, for me, if somebody's listening to this and they're wondering, okay, so great, well, what do I do? You know, I'm in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of, to me, a 3-step process. One is, maybe even 4. One is, you have to be curious. You have to be curious about why you think the way you think and why somebody else thinks the way they think or feels, you know, and those are not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing that I think is important is understanding what are your values. And when you're feeling that, we use the phrase triggered, when you're feeling all of a sudden like, wait a minute, you know, Franciska, like I'm going to go underground here, or I'm going to start to play the harmony role, or when you feel that shift starting to occur because you're sensing something that's different. One question I like to ask myself is, what values are being attacked here? Because that's usually my clue that something is amiss. Something's not, you know, lined up right. And so once I can understand and see that and understand where I'm triggered, so again, starting curiosity, understanding what might be triggering me so that I'm not reacting, but I'm responding. And Franciska, you said earlier, it's that conscious choice as opposed to a reactive choice. And we talk about that in our leadership model all the time. It's, are you being a reactive leader or a true conscious leader, where you're coming from, you know, a response, an appropriate response, as opposed to the, you know, kind of that reflective, just reaction, you know? I think those things, when they come together, give me a place to stand, whether there's harmony or disagreement, because I feel comfortable in my own space then. I can walk away from it. I can be engaged in it. I could be heated in it. I mean, but I have all the things that I know that work for me in terms of engaging in a conversation, to your point, Andrea, that actually brings something to the next stage or the next level of evolution.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And what is so important, again, is this self-awareness. Like, we need to know ourselves intimately. I need to know when my triggers, when I'm in danger to be triggered. And so I need to know, what is it really that I find the most difficult giving up? And that is also a great conversation with other people. Like, what is it that you find the most difficult to give up, and what do I find the most difficult to give? Because it is the shadow side. It's where we, maybe even the most tolerant people or persons, or the person who can really, really listen deeply, that they then think, oh, now I make an exception. This is, I cannot go with it. And then staying curious. So you need to know when your own personal wall would be hit, where you would make the exception, and then knowing I have to go beyond that exception. And there you need to be aware when it happens, because otherwise you are in your survival mechanism always, whether it's like jumping on someone or retreating, which is not engaging. In both ways, you're no longer engaging in anything. There's no longer a connection there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. when I listen to the both of you, I say yes, yes, yes. And this is what we have been practicing over years and years and years and years. And I can imagine that it may sound a little complicated with a lot of moving pieces. So what I would like to add is yes, tune in or would welcome you to explore what Beth and Andrea are pointing out and what we are offering in the Tiara Resource Circle and in all our programs. And also, what I want to you to know, not everything needs to be solved in the moment. So also allow yourself time. Time to discover, time to learn. Often, maybe just not react or respond in a moment, but just pause and say you'll get back to the situation or get back to the topic.
Mm-hmm. You know, Franciska, the other thing I would encourage folks is to remember nobody is perfect. But, you know, even though we're talking about this like we have mastery in this, you know, there's so much not masterful about, you know, some of my days, you know, where I'm just, you know, just not on my game, or I let things get to me in ways that I just know better, or I want to do better, you know, things like that. So I do want to encourage people to have compassion for themselves, to get back on the game, you know, try it again. It's hard when somebody is attacking something you feel strongly about to stay there with grace. It is not easy. You know, I think of a few role models of that over the course of my life. Mother Teresa comes to mind. I mean, you know, just, you know, people just impacting her all around, and yet she just brought grace to everything, you know, and I think there's, you know, there's a lot of opportunity for us right now as human beings in this world, in our world, our collective world. I guess I would also say that there's no one right way for you to do things, but it might take some courage, but you'll have to take care of yourself. In any situation, you know, if you're dealing with someone who's aggressive or a bully or, you know, too forceful for you, please take care of yourself. You know, this isn't the time to just take a stand to be courageous. You know, this is the time for you to knowingly and intentionally show up the way you intend to. But please be careful, you know, and there's some craziness in the world right now. So, you know, we don't need more martyrs. But we do want people to find their voice and courageously share their voice.
And so it is, Beth.
It is.
So it is.
Any final words from you all?
Something that I use all the time when I enter into conversations that are geared to a higher ground or next level. I always say, like, let's assume that everyone's right and no one is to blame. And that does the trick. Everyone's right and no one is to blame. Because often there are people in the same room who blame each other for something, or who just were in each other's way. And then the relationship was kind of tense. But by giving them permission to come from that premise, it helps a lot.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Anything else, Franciska?
No, just maybe very briefly repeat to stay curious and patient. And hopefully.
And I think I've stole this from you, Andrea, the Rumi quote about, in the space between right and wrong, I will meet you there.
Yeah.
So with that, we say, have a wonderful weekend wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining us. These recordings are here on Facebook. They're also on our YouTube channel. And feel free to join our Tiara Resource Circle. It is free right now. There is a wealth of tools and topics in our library that you can access, as well as be part of conversations like this in an ongoing way. So please join us and be well. Thank you.
Thank you.